Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie, and you're watching Reliable Roots. And today's video is all about homeschooling and working at the same time. So it has been a hot minute since I've made regular content. I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things, but this video is kind of a tie between those two because I haven't been making content for a very long time because I've been both homeschooling and working. And there's a balance to the two, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. So for those who are new, I have 3 children that I've been homeschooling for about the past 8 to 9 years, if you're counting those preschool sort of years. They are all 3 different ages, of course, and I've been working for about 6 of those years. So to get started, I want to explain a little bit about why I chose to homeschool my kids. For me, it's very personal. Everybody has a different reason nowadays because homeschool is a lot more chic, I guess, than when I started homeschooling years ago. But for me personally, I've always wanted to homeschool. I remember the first time I heard the word homeschool, I did not know that existed. I didn't know that was a thing. And that was in middle school. And I fell in love with the idea because at the time I was going to middle school and I saw this immense, enormous, gigantic amount of wasted time during the day between getting up and getting dressed and catching the bus, and then the time in between classes, and then the time with disrupted students, and then some students were behind, some students were ahead. And there was just this yearning that I had to learn what I wanted to learn when I wanted to learn it. And I think it was Einstein that said that, he wasn't really a genius. He's just stuck to problems longer than anybody else would. And I wanted that freedom and that flexibility. So for me personally, this is something that I've always wanted to do. I wanted the freedom and flexibility that comes along with homeschooling. And for me, this is a selfish reason. I wanted to learn along with my children because I feel like as an adult, you appreciate learning so much more than you did as a kid because it was such a chore and that was your work that you had to do as a child. So as an adult, I really love learning specifically about history, but also science and math and literature, all of the different things that I really didn't enjoy learning as a kid, I greatly enjoy as an adult. It brings me immense pleasure. It's very rewarding. I really enjoy homeschooling. For me personally, it has been a very rewarding and enriching experience, and I'm so glad for the opportunity to be able to do that. The first thing that I do each week is I map out our schedule for the week. Now, I'll be honest, I've been homeschooling, again, for like 8 years, and this is the first year that I felt that we had a really good schedule. No joke. In the past, I've had schedules with other organizations and different kind of classrooms and just all sorts of things. And so our schedule was just kind of all over the place for different ages and different activities that we were doing. And this year we cut back a lot on that so that we could just make a very simplistic sort of schedule. And that has helped tremendously with balancing our moods and balancing our activities, making everything a little bit more manageable. So scheduling is very important, but even if you're not able to schedule, there are still ways around that. But as far as balancing life and work, I would say schedule is definitely really up there at the top priorities. For me personally, I try to take Sundays to kind of map out the entire week. Each of my children get their own set schedule that includes 3 chores a day that they are going to be doing, as well as all of their different curriculum activities and our extracurricular activities that we're going to be doing for the week. This helps keep me all organized and keeps my brain functioning. And it also helps me to identify where we're supposed to be at each day. For us, we time block all of our homeschool until noon. So I try to get started around 7 a.m. We are usually in our pajamas and we go until noon. So there will be a snack break in between there. If someone finishes language arts and before they start on math, they might have a snack or they might just take a few minutes break to kind of refresh their mind. But we try to run that time period from 7 till noon because we can knock out a whole lot of school. And we usually only do the majority of our school Monday through Thursday. So Friday is kind of our overflow day. So if we were sick or if there was appointments, if there was something else that happened during the week, we weren't able to get to that, Friday is our overflow day. Also, the science curriculum that we're using this year has a lot of hands-on projects, and we also have some field trips that are being planned. So I like having a 4-day week. That way I know they're getting their base of what they need. And then we have an extra day each week for other things. I will say this about time management strategies. When it comes to time management, one of the most important things is to really delegate and prioritize tasks. So for example, with my work is sometimes I have meetings that will happen before noon and that has to be a priority to me. So I will have to rearrange our homeschool day. And then other times my children might have a doctor's appointment or some other activity that really has to be a priority over working for that day. Now, I'm very thankful that my job is very flexible, so I get those allowances, but everybody is different with their work schedule. So you have to really figure out, is it that much of a priority that we get to this lesson of language arts this week, or can we relax a little bit and do these other things that are going to take more of a precedence this week? We can catch up on language arts this weekend or maybe next week, but you have to figure out that balance of what is a priority to you each week by week. The second tip that I have is to be very flexible with your curriculum. So I started out using a Waldorf-based curriculum, and I did that for years, and I loved it so much. We had circle time, we had this rhythm and this flow, and that was when my children were a lot younger. We did lots of hands-on baking and nature walks and all sorts of crafts and arts, and it was all natural materials, and I loved it so much. However, I have no background in Waldorf except for what I had read and studied. I didn't go to a Waldorf school. So as my children got a little bit older and the curriculum got a little bit more tough and my work schedule got a little bit more hectic, I realized I just couldn't do Waldorf justice. It wasn't a good fit for us anymore because I'd have to do all of this reading every single night to figure out which stories were going to which age child. And it just wasn't a good fit for us anymore. So we switched from Waldorf to traditional homeschooling. And even since we've been doing a traditional homeschool, I've gone through several different types of curriculum. In fact, this year, I think we're using like 4 or 5 different types of curriculum. We are just nitpicking, and different children are using different things for different subjects. So you really have to be flexible with that curriculum. What works for one child really might not work for another child. And I'll get more into that in a second. What we also do with our homeschool, like I said, because we're only mostly working 4 days a week with just a little bit of overflow, we try to do some real hands-on experience. So it might be making your own business. That's a really big one for kids nowadays. It might be field trips. It might be extracurricular activities. One thing that we are doing that we're loving this year and we have been doing for a while is American Heritage Girls through our church. So they have an entire book full of super neat badge work. And it incorporates different aspects of life. So there's science and technology, there is faith-based badges, there's also family badges and crafting badges. So the girls get to pick whichever badge they want to work on, and there's a lot of different steps so they can be earning those badges while also learning and enriching their education. Tip number 3 is involving the kids, setting up routines and expectations and getting them to help out a lot. This is the first year that I'm really trying to get stricter on chores. In the past, I've done chore charts and lots of different things for chores. But this year, the girls each have 3 chores, and they are family chores. They are not individualized chores. That's what's working for us. My youngest one isn't quite up to reading some of her chores, so I've included pictures on her chore chart each day. 3 max, it's very doable. They're the same chores each week, and this teaches them responsibility, but it also helps mom out a whole lot so that when I get done working and homeschooling, I also don't have a messy house that I have to go clean. The 4th tip that I have is to have a dedicated workspace. So right now I'm in my office area, which is in the basement, and there is a door that is lockable if need be, which most of the time it doesn't need to be because of my job flexibility. The kids can come in and out and they're very quiet and respectful of my workspace. But this is a no touching zone. Now, even though I have bookshelves behind here that have a lot of our resources that we use, they are still not allowed to drag anything off of the shelves without permission because it's just going to create chaos. And so having a dedicated space that is all my own for the purpose of work and organization has been extremely helpful. Also, the girls each have their own rolling cart. Now, this just started this year, and I love these carts. I got them for $20 each at Walmart. It has all of their curriculum in there. We can just roll them out, set them at the kitchen table to do our homeschool each day, and then roll them back into place. That way, I know that there's pens and glue and paper and tape and everything else that they're going to need, including all of their curriculum. Tip number 5 is self-care and family time, trying to avoid burnout. This is really important. Self-care is always really important, but it's even more so when you're trying to be a teacher and a mom and an employee and a girl boss and whatever else it is that you are going for in your personal work, homeschooling life. When you're trying to fit it all together, it can be tough to burn those candles at both ends. So having some dedicated time for not just for self-care, but for family care. So because we homeschool together and I work at home and there's a lot of activity that happens in the home, sometimes you can forget that you still have children that you should just be with, that you should just play with. So one of those things is that the kids will come up to me sometimes and be like, Mom, I miss you. I haven't seen you. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm here all the time. We are here all the time. We are always around each other, but yet they don't have that quality time. So it's important to schedule in some quality family time, some quality self-care time, and to really take a stand and make sure that, sometimes everybody's gnawing at a piece of you, but you have to take some time to dedicate to yourself. Tip number 6 is support systems. Use them and use them well. So whether it is a spouse or a grandparent, whether it is a church or some kind of community thing at the Y, whether it is some kind of app on your phone or a car riding service so that your kids can be Ubered to all of their activities, whatever it might be, utilize those services as best as you can because you are going to need help. It takes a village to raise a child and you don't want to get burnt out. So we have used OutSchool in the past. My husband has done quite a bit with our homeschooling. We have utilized AHG, which is American Heritage Girls. We've utilized our church. We have utilized a lot of different resources to enrich our education and enrich our homeschool. So go ahead and take advantage of those. They're there for a reason. And finally, tip number 7 is to acknowledge that this is challenging to work and homeschool at the same time. However, it can be done. And I've seen not just myself, but many, many other moms and dads work and homeschool and create that balance for themselves if that's something that you want to do. I think it's important to stay positive while at the same time being realistic. So I have known homeschooling families who decided after years, you know what, this isn't working for us anymore. The kids need to go to public school because this isn't vibing well in our household. And just recognizing what works for you doesn't necessarily work for everyone else, and what works for everyone else maybe works for you for a time period, but then not forever. So being positive about the whole experience, this is a beautiful time in your children's life, and it's an incredible opportunity to get to know them closer and get to be hands-on, enriching their lives with education and yourself as well. Like I said, that's kind of my selfish little input, is that I love learning this stuff as well. I didn't appreciate it growing up. So my closing thoughts is that I hope that you stay positive with it, stay motivated. If you have any tips that you would like to share, please leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and liked the tips, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Have a wonderful semester and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.